Oh my goodness. Well, I'll be honest with you. This is my fourth take on this video. Trying to get this thing nailed down and as polished as I can because what I'm going to tell you is probably one of the most complicated and perhaps one of the most contradictory stories you're ever going to hear. So brace yourself. You've been warned. Fantastic dance record though at number 8, down from number 1. Believe by Cher. Fancy playlist of February 6, 1999. This song, this record was 6 years in the making. Oh gosh, it went through about, I don't know, I guess 4 producers, 5 or 6 songwriters. You won't believe it. I'll tell you how this started. I'll give you the gist of it anyway. Four songwriters, their names were Kevin McMichael, Nick Van Ede, EEDE, formerly of the Cutting Crew. I might have mispronounced his last name. Mark Scott and Brian Higgins, they made the original demo of this record. They tweaked the lyrics, well, they tweaked the melody, they just played around with it. Now, I don't know what happened. They might have either sent it out to the producers or they might have sat on it or it might have gathered dust. But either way, what happened, and by the way, I almost forgot to mention this, they made this for Cher. They gave it to Warner Brothers. They made it for Warner Brothers, Cher's record company. Anyway, the demo made its way to a small studio in London. It was called Metro Productions, and 4 songwriters got on it. And they tweaked it. They added studio technologies. They added a processing effect to give the voice a synthesized effect. Now they did this for Cher. They wanted to make an explosive dance track, a red hot dance track for Cher. And I guess they figured that if they added a synthesized effect to the song, it wouldn't alienate Cher's core audience, who are used to rock ballads that she was doing when she made her comeback in 1987. Although I haven't quite figured that part out yet for some reason, but I'm just laying it on you. You can marinate on that a little bit. So they worked on this thing, but it was meticulous. One of the songwriters who worked on this record, Mark Taylor, he scratched the first edition. He scratched the first draft, the first take, or whatever it was of the demo. The dance music was too hardcore. It needed to be reworked. It needed more originality, and they reworked it again. Now here's where it gets confusing. Oh gosh, just bear with me because you're going to say, Mr. DJ, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And you know something? You're actually right. What you just said is partly true. I don't know what I'm talking about. And here's the deal. The producers claimed they used the vocoder to create the synthesized voice effect because Cher doesn't really sound like Cher on the record. You hear that synthesized effect. Vocoder was popular. It was becoming popular in the 90s. You might remember Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys. They used it. Dr. Dre and Tupac with California Love in 96, they used it. And oh gosh, you remember that fantastic dance record, that amazing dance track. The novelty dance track in 1999. Remember Evil 65? Blue la da da dee da 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 dee da. Using that high pitched voice, the vocoder. I believe Roger used it back in the 80s. Sap might have used it back in the early 80s. But it turns out that the producers actually used a device called the auto-tune processor. And what the auto-tune processor does, it changes the pitch and the recorded vocals. In a nutshell. Well, hang on to your seat. It's not over yet. Now here comes the confusing part. Here's the confusing part. Cher saw an entertainer, singer named Rochford on the telly. Rochford used a vocoder and he played a guitar. Now you might remember Rochford. I guess You'd have to be really in the top 40 music to remember Roachford. Roachford had a hit, not a big hit, but he had a top 40 in 1989 called Cuddly Toy. Put a little perspective on it. Cher was like, wow. She was absolutely enamored with the vocoder. She went to her producer. She said something like, "This guy sounded amazing with that vocoder or whatever device he was using. Why can't I use that on my record?" And the producer said, "Well, you've already recorded it. You can't use it." Well, then Cher sat down at the pitch machine and she started fooling around and she created the effect with the producer. They sat down and they listened to it and they looked at each other and they said, "This is it. We're on it." I guess there's really not much difference. I could be wrong. Now, you're probably more technically sophisticated about these things than I am, the difference between an auto-tune processor and the vocoder, but there it is. But either way, the song was a smash. Cher was big in England. The Brits, they embraced her. You want to know how many copies this song sold? The song sold in England? I'll give you the number. 1,672,108 in the UK. Think about that. Now you're saying 1 million, man, that's nothing, man. Well, yeah, in the US, but England's a much smaller market. You're selling over 1 or 2 million records, man. You're killing it. You're killing it over there. That may be equivalent to selling like 10 or 12 million copies here in the States, or 20 million copies here in the States, or maybe in Japan. Well, it was huge in Japan, and it was number one here in the States. As a matter of fact, here's a trivia thing. Cher's first number one since Dark Lady in 1974, which was produced by Snuff Garrett. How about that? Cher at number 8 on my fancy playlist of February 6, 1999.